Pontiac Tojan stands as one of the most fascinating, audacious, and misunderstood creations of 1980s American automotive culture. A car born out of both ambition and audacity. It was a time when the United States was craving its own exotic supercar, something that could challenge the best of Europe while still maintaining a distinctly American soul. The Tojan, created by Russell Knudsen of Knudsen Automotive, sought to be that car. A bold fusion of muscle and modernity, equal parts Trans Am and Countach, with the heart of a fire-breathing turbocharged V8. Knudsen wasn't new to building cars. His Nebraska-based company first found modest success in the late 1970s making neoclassic automobiles, glamorous machines dressed in long fenders, wire wheels, and chrome flourishes that evoked the pre-war era. But as the 1980s dawned, that style quickly faded, replaced by a passion for sleek, wedge-shaped supercars. Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Lotus were the darlings of the era, and Knudsen saw a chance to translate that aesthetic into an American form. His solution was the Tojan, based on the third-generation Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, reimagined with entirely new bodywork and a character unlike anything else on U.S. roads. Far from being a simple body kit, the Tojan was a deeply engineered transformation. The cars were stripped back to their central chassis structures before being rebuilt with hand-laid glass fiber panels designed by none other than Harry Bentley Bradley, the same designer responsible for the first Hot Wheels cars. The result was a shape that looked like it had rolled straight out of a sci-fi movie. Its slanted nose hinting at a Toyota Supra, its rear deck echoing the De Tomaso Pantera. Despite being made of composite material, the panels were impressively solid, the panel gaps tighter than on most GM production cars of the period. Knudsen's engineering didn't stop at styling. He modified suspension geometry, widened the track, and retuned the handling with upgraded springs, dampers, and components from Pontiac's WS6 package. The Tojan's stance and grip were far beyond what the factory Trans Am could deliver. For those willing to pay more, options ranged from Lamborghini-style rear wings to custom interiors and digital dashboards, years before such technology appeared in production Firebirds. But the most remarkable option of all was the powertrain upgrade developed in collaboration with turbocharging legend Gale Banks. The prototype Tojan, later owned by British TV presenter Paul Cowland, was the ultimate expression of this partnership. Under its hood sat a twin-turbocharged, intercooled 5.7-liter small-block V8, reportedly producing up to 900 horsepower on high-octane fuel. Banks had already proven his engineering prowess, having achieved over 240 miles per hour in a modified Corvette, and later 283 miles per hour in a Trans Am. When he lent his expertise to Knudsen's project, the dream of a 200 miles per hour American exotic suddenly seemed possible. Though few believed it could truly hit 206 miles per hour, as Knudsen claimed, the hardware suggested it wasn't just fantasy. It might actually be within reach. Yet the Tojan story is about more than raw numbers. When Cowland stumbled upon the prototype during the filming of Salvage Hunters, Classic Cars, he recognized it instantly. Hidden away in a British garage since the mid-1980s, it was the very first Tojan built, the one that embodied the entire dream of beating Europe at its own game. Buying it was like rescuing a piece of lost mythology. The car had been exported from the US shortly after its creation, and remained in the same family for decades. Cowland's purchase brought the story full circle. Driving it today reveals both brilliance and flaws. Its massive turbos no longer deliver full boost, likely due to a less ambitious rebuild at some point in its life. But even in detuned form, the car exudes menace. The modified automatic transmission slams into gear with force, the chassis feels taut, and the suspension soaks up corners with surprising precision. Cowland describes it as one of the best handling Trans Ams he's driven, firm, responsive, and devoid of the typical American muscle car vagueness. Even without its full 800 horsepower, it hustles down British roads with poise. The Tojan's significance lies in its audacity. It was a car that dared to imagine an American Ferrari, built not in California or Detroit but in Omaha, Nebraska. It wasn't just a Firebird with fancy bodywork. It was a statement of possibility. While only 136 examples were ever made, each one reflected the same wild optimism that defined the 1980s supercar era. Alongside its sibling, the Camaro-based Corralo, the Tojan became a rare collector's curiosity, remembered fondly by those who appreciate the era's mix of confidence and chaos. Today, as Paul Cowland's prototype sits restored and admired, it represents something greater than a 200 miles per hour claim or a forgotten record. It embodies the restless spirit of a time when dreamers like Knudsen believed that anything was possible if you just built it yourself. The Tojan might never have officially beaten Ferrari to the 200 miles per hour milestone, but it didn't need to. It already proved that America, too, could build a machine that looked and felt like a supercar, an exotic born from raw ingenuity rather than Italian heritage. And for that, it remains one of the most compelling footnotes in automotive history, a reminder that passion and imagination can sometimes roar louder than proof itself. In many ways, the Pontiac Tojan was more than just a machine, it was a manifestation of 1980s optimism, an era when car builders were not afraid to experiment, when design was bold, and when performance dreams were chased with sheer willpower rather than corporate budgets. What Knudsen achieved in Nebraska was something that even the big automakers of Detroit rarely dared. An independent creation that blended engineering ambition with exotic flair. To build a car like this in the heart of America, far from the design studios of Turin or Modena, required a certain madness and brilliance. Each Tojan was hand-built to order, meaning no two were truly alike. Some came with wild body kits and flared arches, others with subtle lines that made them appear more GT than supercar. Interiors could be trimmed in plush leather or fitted with high-tech touches like the bespoke digital dash Knudsen designed himself. This was no small achievement at a time when digital instrumentation was a novelty found only in a handful of futuristic models. The dashboard itself gave the Tojan a cockpit-like feel, echoing the kind of control layout you'd expect from a fighter jet or high-end Italian sports car, and giving buyers the sense they were piloting something far beyond an everyday Firebird. But what truly made the Tojan special was its soul. Beneath the fiberglass and flare, it was still an American car, a roaring mechanical beast powered by V8 thunder and raw torque. Even in its lesser forms, the Tojan offered muscle that was accessible and visceral. It didn't need refinement to be desirable. It was a car built to be felt more than understood, to shock and inspire rather than to impress quietly. This blend of American heart and exotic body gave it a dual identity. A car that looked European but drove like pure Detroit steel. When you look at it now, parked among more conventional classics, the Tojan stands out like a vision from a parallel universe. Its long, aggressive wedge shape, massive air intakes, and low stance evoke the wild design language of a time when everything felt possible. The proportions are striking, low-slung and wide, yet balanced enough to maintain grace. Its headlights, borrowed from the Firebird but reworked into the new body, peek through the front like eyes watching for the next stretch of open road. The rear end, meanwhile, with its Pantera-inspired deck and integrated spoiler, looks ready to devour miles at high speed. It's an aesthetic that commands attention even today, for decades after its creation. For Paul Cowland, the car is more than just a piece of automotive history. It's a living connection to a lost dream. Owning the prototype means preserving the original spirit of Knudsen's vision, and though it no longer delivers the ferocious power it once did, its character remains intact. Every drive reminds him of the era it was born into, a time when television heroes like Knight Rider and Miami Vice turned cars into icons, when young enthusiasts believed America could match Ferrari and Lamborghini, and when engineers didn't let practicality stop them from chasing speed. Even now, the Tojan feels like a time capsule from that golden period. It rumbles to life with the deep growl of its V8, the body trembling slightly as if anticipating the open highway. Behind the wheel, the sensation is raw and mechanical. There's no mistaking that this is a car built by hand, not mass-produced. The steering has weight and feedback, the suspension feels taut, and the wide tires bite into the tarmac with confidence. Push it hard enough and it rewards you with that old-school American thrill, a sensation of pure mechanical honesty. Knudsen himself looks back with pride. Though production numbers were small and profits limited, his company achieved something remarkable. It created a car that people still talk about decades later. The Tojan was never meant to compete with Ferrari in terms of refinement or prestige. It was meant to prove that passion could triumph over pedigree. That belief gave the car its identity, and it's why enthusiasts like Cowland continue to treasure it. In the grand timeline of automotive history, the Pontiac Tojan may never hold the same fame as a Countach or an F40, but it deserves a place among them as a symbol of what happens when creativity and courage collide. It's a reminder that great cars don't always come from great factories. Sometimes they come from ordinary garages filled with extraordinary dreams. And perhaps that's what makes the Tojan so endearing. It wasn't born from perfection. It was born from pursuit. The pursuit of speed, the pursuit of style, and the pursuit of something unapologetically different. Decades later, its story continues to resonate because it captures that rare and electric moment when an American builder from Nebraska tried to outdo Modena and nearly pulled it off. The Pontiac Tojan may not have rewritten the record books, but it forever rewrote what it meant to dream big in the world of cars. Even now, when Paul opens the garage door and sunlight glances off the Tojan's sculpted bodywork, it's hard not to feel a shiver of awe. The car still looks futuristic, its proportions and presence utterly captivating. It's a reminder of an era when imagination mattered more than efficiency, when builders dared to dream in fiberglass and horsepower rather than spreadsheets and emissions figures. The Tojan embodies that spirit perfectly, a blend of rebellion, creativity, and sheer nerve that defines the best of American ingenuity. There's a certain poetry in how the car survived. While many one-off experiments from the 1980s have disappeared into obscurity, this prototype endured, crossing an ocean to the United Kingdom and finding a caretaker who truly understands its story. Every scratch and imperfection tells a tale of ambition and excess, of late nights spent tuning turbos and chasing numbers that seemed impossible at the time. Today, it doesn't need to prove its 206 miles per hour claim to impress anyone. Simply existing is enough. As Cowland plans the car's gradual restoration, there's a sense that he's not just preserving a vehicle, but rekindling a piece of history. The Tojan stands as a tribute to the idea that greatness can come from anywhere, even a small workshop in Omaha. It reminds us that sometimes the most remarkable machines aren't the ones that win trophies or set official records, but the ones that dared to challenge convention. For decades on, the Pontiac Tojan remains an icon for those who believe cars should stir the soul. It's a symbol of raw ambition, a car that looked beyond its limits, defied expectations, and captured the essence of what it means to dream in motion. In a world that often prizes conformity, the Tojan story still roars with the sound of freedom, proving that true automotive legends aren't always born in Italy or Germany. Sometimes, they're forged in the heart of America by a man who simply refused to stop imagining.